A lot of our marriages are blowing hot and cold. We've got special guests coming on the show today who are going to talk about the 5 most common issues urban young couples are facing in India today. They are Ajanta and Mahesh from Inner Sight, and they are also going to offer you the solutions to these 5 most common issues.
I think the challenges would be differences in terms of their attitude and approaches to money, sex, religion. There are a lot of interreligious marriages as well.
So I'm also seeing a large change because of gender roles that are coming up now, like intermingling of gender roles. It's not so well defined anymore. Second thing I'm seeing is how in-laws figure in the whole equation. Especially with working women.
So the 5 things you've mentioned are money, sex, religion, families and gender roles. Let's start with the first one, money.
Individuals who've come together as a married couple already have their set attitudes about what money means for them and how they perceive money. Once you get married, there is that whole thing about how you're going to spend money.
Yeah.
And what are the important things, what are the priorities and planning. Finances.
How much are you going to save and what for?
Yeah. Yes.
And what are you spending on?
Yes. For someone, spending a huge amount on a music system may be an indulgence. For somebody else, that may be something that he or she is working for. Holidaying may be important on someone's wish list and may not be so much for another person.
Especially for women marrying into another family, there's a lot of unsaid expectations on how much money can be sent back to your parents, how the woman especially can support her family of origin.
Even if she's working.
Even if she's working. Money becomes also a matter if like they are earning differently, they are in different professions. Who earns more than the other, and the kind of stress that brings into the social equation.
Right, so the second one?
Sex.
Sex.
Sex?
Yeah. Sex is a very vast area for couples. In many situations, especially arranged marriage situations where they haven't had the chance or the willingness or the values differ, that they have not really talked about sex, so they have not explored their sexual compatibility with each other. It becomes a minefield of sorts once married and once in a relationship. What sex means to each other, how do they experience themselves as a sexual being.
And I think because of the different frames of reference about sex, someone comes in thinking certain things are dirty about sex.
Yeah.
While for someone else, that is what they're looking forward to in a sexual relationship. And that can cause
conflict.
Yeah.
So the third thing you mentioned was religion.
Yeah.
Why religion and how?
In the urban context, there are a lot of interreligious marriages. Religion also has a lot of rituals and rites and things like that which come with it. And so every individual comes with different ideas about how they view it and how they would like to practice it. For some, it's all about faith, and you don't need to physically
manifest it.
Yeah, right. And so it's different. For some people, actually going to a religious place, or doing certain rituals would mean practicing religion. So it can cause a lot of difficulty, of course, even later with children as well, but even just between the couple. If
one person is an avid Christian, for example, and the other person comes from a Christian heritage but is no longer a believer, the amount of sniping that could go on each other, saying, okay, you're going back to church, okay, those kind of sniping adds a lot of stress into that marriage.
And I think sometimes it starts just from the marriage ceremony itself, because ceremony also has a lot of rites and rituals, and to say that we got married, but in their family they didn't do these things, and this is very important for us. So it starts right from there itself.
Okay, and number 4, families.
Families, in-laws specifically, the Sas-Bahu equation that we were talking about. In my counseling practice, some of the couples that I've seen have specifically come with that kind of an issue, where the woman is a fairly successful IT engineer or a business person, and yet there is a lot of expectations that she would continue to perform the kind of roles that her in-laws would expect of her, saying that she needs to be cooking, cleaning, taking care of the babies, working, coming back home, taking care of her husband. and doing that. So it's essentially like 2 or 3 different full-time
Yeah.
jobs that the woman needs to do. And there's also the factors of different social classes, different social circumstances that people come from, where a woman marrying into a family which is much more traditional finds herself in discomfort, saying very basic things like the in-laws expect me to wear a sari all the time, but I want to be in chudidars, and my husband is okay with me, and my husband wants to see me in like mini skirts and things. So literally have to go into changing wardrobes like 3 times in 2 hours.
Also, women being more financially independent now and feeling a lot more confident than they did earlier, sometimes come in with the mindset that I will not do anything which would mean that it's looked upon as being controlled by the in-laws. And sometimes, so even the smallest of issues can become a huge
Challenge.
challenge.
So the degree to which one feels one must assert themselves is both if you're like the mother-in-law, the father-in-law, we end up talking about the
mother-in-law,
mother and
daughter-in-law,
daughter-in-law.
yes.
When the father-in-law also has very any of the in-laws have a pretty
Well, the
decent,
husband has a role to play as well.
Yeah, and it's it can be a very conflicting situation on what is family. And actually, in a way, we've in India moving away from a joint family establishment to a nuclear family, and those kind of moving away. So in doing that, there is a lot of that pulling away that happens, and it's fairly painful for both parents and children unless they actually talk about it and handle it.
And now for the last one, number 5, gender roles.
With the tendency towards gender equality becoming the norm now, saying that there is no need to look at women as less equal in a marriage. The men are seeing a greater role in the family, like especially in taking care of children, and young fathers are changing diapers and things and taking a lot of joy in that.
Like, for example, a young father taking pride or like taking pleasure in doing stuff for his kid. If there is in-laws staying over there, they would frown upon it because that's not a gender role that they see for their son. Earlier, most fathers wouldn't even know when exams were, and when how involved they were in the whole parenting business was very different. And mothers were always at home when children came back from school. So things have changed now. It's not necessarily like that anymore. And these could be sort of crop up as issues between couples.
We've identified, 5, issues as being sort of the most common in urban marriages today. Money, sex, religion, families, and gender roles. So what's the solution? How would you recommend young couples deal with these things?
Something we recommend very strongly is premarital counseling. So before you get married, to come in for a couple of sessions to just get a sense of what you're expecting from this marriage and from this other person, what you're willing to give also in the marriage, to communicate in that sense, because a lot of these things remain unsaid and leads to disappointment later.
We touched upon 5 things that we are seeing now, and there are a few other dimensions to what marriage entails. And even if you've been in a long courtship, typically...
So you would still recommend premarital counseling even if people have been in a long courtship?
Actually, probably especially if you are, because you're like so caught into each other's dynamic that one hasn't actually talked about the practicalities of everyday married life. So you're caught up in love, or being in love, and marriage is a reality. So before moving there, I would always suggest that you come and talk to a
I'm signing
counselor.
up. When I find the man, I'm signing up.
But if you're already married and you're having these issues in any of these things, it's again important to hold the relationship and come to a relationship counselor. So how we work with the couple is very different, because then the focus is not about the husband or the wife, but the relationship between them. And our job as a couples counselor is not to be a judge or a adjudicator on who's right and who's wrong, but to be able to bring it back and saying that you guys, this is the status of your relationship, this is what is happening in how you talk to each other in these particular areas, and how can you work in a way that this is going to be more effective for you.
Here, when we say that, when we're talking about couples coming to counselors, such as yourselves, to sort of talk through the issues, much before that, a conversation can be had,
Yes.
a dialogue can be had between them,
Yes.
right? So, what do you think, or how do you think they should go about this?
The first step would be to check how the communication pattern is between the couple, and to see whether you're able to freely and clearly express what you're feeling in the relationship. If you recognize that there is a stumbling block over there, that's something to sort of worry about and say, okay, there may be a problem here. Why do I see myself not being able to say what I'm really thinking at this point?
And if you keep finding that you're getting stuck and nothing is moving, then it's a good time to call a counselor, primarily because maybe the couple needs to learn new ways of communicating with each other, need to learn where the other person comes from.
And unlearn some of the context,
Unlearn
perhaps.
some of it.
Yes.
Need to learn to listen to each other.
Well, that was an absolutely insightful discussion with Ajanta and Mahesh. 5 most common issues that urban couples face. If you're one of them, you know exactly how to deal with these issues now. Good luck, and I'll see you on the next episode.